Joining me this week is Kitchener, Ontario Mayor Barry Vrbanovic. Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for coming on the show.
No problems. Thanks for having me back on, David. I enjoyed it last time when we did our interview, and I'm looking forward to today, even though it's a little different than our in-person one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That was 2018, I think. So slightly different situation here. But we were just chatting before we started the interview, and I was saying, I've been doing my podcast, and it's hard not to really discuss COVID in almost every interview, certainly with political figures. So that's likely what we'll do today. But
Sure.
obviously, it's been a tough few weeks for the region and the entire province. You know, what does it look like getting back to normal? What's the summer going to look like? Are we going to have a relatively free summer, or what do you think?
I think all of us are obviously, very hopeful for that. It's without a doubt it's been a challenging year, but with spring upon us and vaccines upon us, there's certainly this era of hope. Just a couple weeks ago, I did my State of the City, and we ended it with a song that was done by the local group KW Glee. They composed it, and 78 young people sang it, and it was called "We Got This," and I really do feel that we do have this. I mean, the vast majority of people in our community have been working really hard to follow the public health guidelines, maintaining our 2 meters distance, wearing a mask, washing hands regularly. And in these shutdowns, staying home and or within our household bubble, unless you're on your own, and then you can connect with one other house. And so it's really going to be important for the remainder of this shutdown as we look to get more people vaccinated to do that and get these numbers down so that we do stand a good chance of enjoying the summer months.
And are people in the city of Kitchener generally are people following the rules of the shutdown?
Yeah, I would say generally speaking, they are. I mean, obviously, it's natural, particularly amongst the young people. When they're out on weekends, you try to tell them to, the basketball court's busy, come back later. Well, when you're, 15, it's hard to necessarily always rationalize that. And so inevitably someone calls our bylaw folks and they come over and have a conversation with them, and things are better after that. But generally speaking, I think people have been very good. So I want to thank Kitchener residents, but I just really want to remind them to also hang in there. It is important, and for none of us to let our guard down so that we can enjoy the nice weather in the latter parts of the year.
Yeah, and that's kind of the sentiment, is to hang on. I think everyone's really feeling it this time around.
Yeah.
There's
Me too, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and you're seeing it a lot online. I think more now. There's a lot of burnout and fatigue, and I'm seeing those words on social media everywhere. And so what are you hearing mostly from parents? Now that the schools are closed now again indefinitely, which is obviously a real litmus test, I think, for the whole society in general. What are you hearing from parents about that subject?
David, it's obviously a challenging time, particularly for those who aren't able to work from home and trying to figure out, okay, legally, can I leave my kids at home? Am I okay with leaving my kids at home? How do I support them to make sure they, in fact, continue to learn? How do I support them? How do I, work with my child's teacher to make sure that things are working well? I know the schools and the school boards have worked really hard to make sure everyone has access to a device that needs one, which is obviously another important part of it. Um, I think, a lot of kudos over the past year needs to go to that whole circle of education, whether you're an educator, whether you're a parent, or whether you're a student, because it's really required sacrifices on everyone's part. And I want to give a shout out to all of them as we come out of March break in April this year and look to returning to distance learning next week.
Yeah, and I guess it's obviously not your call, but do you think they're going to be doing that for the rest of the year?
I think it's too early to tell. I mean, a lot will depend on how good we have been and continue to be in terms of the shutdown and getting those numbers down. We were doing really well in this region up until the last few days, and we've certainly seen some of the increases that they've seen in other parts of the province, not to the same degree, which is encouraging and a good reminder for us to keep doing the right thing, because that's exactly what we want to prevent, particularly with with the increase of the variants being present even locally.
Yes, indeed. And tell me, I'm curious because obviously everyone's jobs have changed a little bit over the last couple of
Yeah.
years. I mean, those who are lucky enough to still have one, and I wonder what a day in the life for you looks like. Are you constantly on camera now? Are you on video all day?
It's a vast majority of my meetings have moved to Zoom meetings. I can think over the last year the number of in-person meetings I've had. I can probably count on, geez, certainly two hands, maybe even one hand. Because obviously, part of my role is to message and demonstrate, to walk the talk in terms of what we're asking other people to do. And so, in the vast majorities of instances, I can do things virtually like I am with you. And it works out. There have been some times when we've had to do something on site, and in those instances, I've made it work. Obviously, with the appropriate PPE and so on. I have an aging parent that I'm the primary caregiver for, and she's had some health issues this year as well, and so I've been extra diligent on that front, because I also recognize that my actions and my choices not only are sending a message to the rest of our community, which is of prime importance in a role like mine, but also could have really significant impacts in my own life.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's important to remember that. I mean, a lot of our parents have been vaccinated, and some people in certain age groups haven't. And I think that's kind of part of why maybe people were starting to feel a little more relaxed, or that we were fully coming out of this, right? And even though we are getting the vaccines out, it's still going on, and we still got to be vigilant, right?
Absolutely, and that is part of the message. Is while we can certainly breathe a sigh of relief for folks who are getting them, and as more get them, it obviously impacts on the rest of the community. But I think one of the important things is to remember that public health advice is that we all need to continue following all of the practices until certainly we see a strong majority in the community vaccinated, and herd immunity starts essentially kicking in. But that won't be until the latter part of this year.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, I know it's got maybe a tough question, but what do you think is going to be, you spending the most time on over the next couple of weeks? What is there, a few major goals that is kind of the focus of the mayor's office over the next few weeks?
As things go on, David, I mean, it's been trying to find this balance between obviously continuing to manage the emergency, and working both with council and our staff team on those pieces. And in our region, because we're a two-tier structure, it also means we work collaboratively through the pandemic control group, which is the region and the 7 area municipalities, and other leaders that are part of the emergency, including the hospitals, the healthcare sector, and emergency services. So that's one piece, but there's also the other important piece, and that's keeping things going, and making sure that the strategic objectives that we've set for the city continue to move forward. And we've had a team that's worked tirelessly on that at the city in terms of our staff. So we've been able to see things like our Kitchener housing strategy get completed in the fall. See our economic development strategy, while it was delayed, it was completed. In over the next couple months, we're looking at seeing our equity, diversity, and inclusion work from the mayor's task force coming forward. So these were important pieces of work, some of which actually became even more important because of the pandemic, and some of the things that the pandemic shone light on in terms of some of the inequities that exist within our society, issues around Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and the racism and other issues that they're confronting with. The fact that the disaggregated data has shown that many in those communities, in fact, are disproportionately affected by COVID-19. And so that work and seeing that work continue was more important than ever. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to continue seeing it move forward. And in fact, on Monday, ahead of the federal budget, council will be considering our post COVID-19 pandemic recovery plan from an economic development point of view at committee, as well as our the planning changes that are necessary in order to allow coach houses and tiny homes. So by the time your listeners are actually listening, this will have already been dealt with a couple days earlier, but certainly something they want to continue to pay attention to.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm a professor in Conestoga College, and I know just from talking to young people that, well, frankly, any age that, yeah, housing is a huge concern, and especially for young people as well. And speaking of young people, one of the tough things in having younger children during this time period is, I feel I again I've seen a lot of commentary on social media, and I avoid the crazy stuff, but I have seen a lot of commentary about children and a real concern to balance mental health with school, because it's getting bad. And so I mean, we all know this, and the reality is the reality. But are our kids going to be able to have a relatively normal summer? I think a lot of parents are worried about that.
Yeah, and certainly we're planning as if we're going to be able to run our summer camps and do them in person. But on the other hand, we're also planning with contingencies so that we can do certain things virtually. Um, with the sudden, with some of the changes that have happened rather suddenly in terms of the lockdown, we weren't able to pivot from what we were planning for March break as quickly. We certainly have had some virtual programming um, during the I keep calling it March break, but during the April break, but not as much as we would have had we known a little earlier that we were going to go back into a shutdown situation, which obviously changed the dynamic and having to move exclusively to virtual and also be limited in terms of even where we can film the virtual. Like we can't do it at a secondary location. It needs to be in the person's house, as an example. So that certainly has changed things as well.
Yeah, definitely some challenges in regards to that. Now, in terms of post-secondary school, obviously a big money driver, economic driver in our region. We have three big schools: Conestoga, Laurier, and Waterloo. So what do you think are going to be the biggest challenges in getting things back on track for those institutions in the next year?
So I do know that the institutions are planning for a return to some normalcy in the coming year. And so while there may not be full clarity in terms of what September looks like, by January, they're expecting to be back in classrooms. Obviously that's going to depend on the ongoing rollout and uptake. There is hesitancy in certain sectors of our community, and we're working hard by working with community leaders from different segments of the community and so on to really alleviate concerns and get people to make sure they sign up and get the vaccine at the first possible opportunity when they're eligible. But all those things are going to be important. And then, the universities I know have been diligently planning for this return and how to make sure, first and foremost, that it's done safely, both at the college and the university. And I should give a shout out to Conestoga in that regards, because I know that, even throughout this whole period, they've done an excellent job and have not seen so, even some of the cases that we've seen at the universities. And so kudos to the team at Conestoga for everything that you've done in that regard.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to resuming our downtown campus as well. That was something that was just really getting
Yeah.
started, and very, very exciting. Going to draw crowds, more people spending money downtown, and so I'm sure the college is looking forward to resuming things back downtown Kitchener again. So, listen,
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us and kind of giving us a little bit of an update, spending some screen time with us. We really appreciate it, and I hope that your parent is doing well and that your family is as well. So stay safe, and thanks again.
Same to you, David. I wish that your family stays healthy, stays safe, and all your viewers and students at the college. And thanks for the opportunity to join you. And look forward to doing this again sometime.